So these are the three basic, very fundamental qualities for good listening. One is unconditional positive regard, empathy, and genuineness. These are the three things. These are the larger umbrella under which you can come up with a lot of things. But everything else, of course, other skills and probably techniques, whatever you want to call them, they are all there. But this is the foundation on which this entire, listening building stands. The foundation with unconditional positive regard, empathy, and genuineness. So, an invitation to all of you. Any understanding? What do you think this unconditional positive regard? This sounds like a very tricky and a very tough word, but what would it really mean?
Shweta, actually, I was going to ask you that what does this mean? It sounds something complicated. Is it as complicated as it sounds? And Beverly is saying to what you asked about listening earlier, that not to prejudge, not to
Not to
prejudge
please.
things. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
thanks for
interesting.
that,
Yeah,
Beverly.
that's
Yeah,
very interesting. Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah,
And Nikita says paying attention to what they say.
pay attention. Thank you,
Yeah,
Nikita. Yes, yes.
yeah. So, Shweta, I can't even think of guessing what this is, unconditional positive regard. Can you like lead us to it?
Yeah, so these are the three principles, three basic qualities, as I said. Unconditional positive regard. In a literal terms, it means to have this unconditional positive regards towards a person. So when I say unconditional, it automatically means there is no condition attached. It is unconditional. It really doesn't matter where that person is, how that person is, the capacity of that person. So anything, irrespective of how, where, and what that person is, to still have that positive regard for that person, to believe in that person, to really feel that there is something that this person wants, and there is something that the person is trying to communicate to me. To have that kind of positive regard for that person is very, very important. And Shilpa, perhaps, people may also want to know, like, why do we need to have, unconditional positive regard? Is it really required? So maybe, I can put myself in a situation where I think, a couple of you mentioned, like, not to prejudge. That was such a lovely
Yeah,
phrase to you. Like you said, non-judgmental, right? So just put yourself in in any conversation where you felt judged. And the moment you feel judged, you step back. You don't want to continue talking. You don't feel like opening up. It's only when the person is really holding that regard for you, that respect for you, you feel like opening up, you feel like talking. So everything that we talk about, this unconditional positive regard, it automatically leads to non-judgment. It's only when I am non-judgmental that I can be this unconditional towards that person, isn't it? I mean, if I have this judgment, I can't be unconditional. That's a given. So unconditional positive regard primarily in its literal sense means to have that unconditional regard, to also know that every being has some capacity, some resources. And when you listen to them with this unconditional positive regard, there is a sense of agency, and probably with time, they may also find access to their own resources and to make their own choices and to make their own decisions. Then there is a sense of ownership that then something has emerged from within. Then you feel like doing it. Yeah. So that is unconditional positive regard. Someone already shared, I empathize, or to empathize is a good quality. So maybe, probably the same person. I think it was Rupali.
yeah.
So if Rupali would want to talk about, what did she mean when she said that? What did she mean when she used the word empathy? Rupali, if you are here and if you feel comfortable talking, please raise your hand, or you can put it up on the chat. That's also all right. And it's open to all of us. if you feel like sharing.
You know,
Empathy is one word which we keep hearing, which we keep talking about. What does it even mean?
it means being in somebody else's shoes without without attaching yourself to that.
Yeah. And why did you say without attaching yourself to that, Shilpa?
Because I think if I attach myself to that situation or that person, I think I may not be able to empathize properly. You know, I may probably judge or make
Hmm.
some assumptions. I
Hmm.
think, you
Hmm.
know, and Shweta, till people process this and ask us some questions and actually move forward, there is a request, you know, when you're done with explaining us this, if you can also share an example of each of these three principles,
Yes,
you know, that would
yes,
be
yes,
great.
yes. We will come to the practicality of it, Shilpa. I'll come to the practical aspects of this, how it can pan out. So Shilpa, you brought up a very, very interesting point that when you actually get into the shoe, some judgments may come up. And here I would like to draw your attention, and when I say your, I mean everyone, I would like to draw your attention to the word judgment. So whenever we use the word judgment, the immediate focus is on negative judgments. So more like, Shilpa, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? What are you wearing today? All of this. So these are the things that really draw your attention. The difficulty and the challenge in this listening is when you jump into someone else's shoes, it's not just the negative judgment, it is also the positive judgment, right? Then you start experiencing all of those. Then you become that person. And when you become that person, then it's very hard to create that space for the other person because you have become that person. So when you say that you have to understand someone's feeling, but you also need to be mindful that they are not your feelings, they are someone else's feelings. So probably the same day someone has reached out to you and talking about anger, and you are angry yourself for some reason, then to be able to have a distinction between this is my anger, I was feeling angry, but what the other person is sharing is his or her anger, it's not mine. And then to not mix the two. So if you are able to keep, when I say separate, I don't mean separate as in distance. To have this distinction, there is a space for both of us in this conversation to really look at what is going on. Then I have some capacity to create some space for this person. Otherwise, I am like all over the place, feeling all of the feelings that the other person is feeling. Right? And that is why in this work, we really need to be very mindful that I am not sympathizing with that person. There is no sense of pity. There is no sense of helplessness. There is no sense of rescue. Because empathy also feels respectful. Empathy also feels equal. And where you feel safe and respected, things open up for you. You feel like opening up more, you feel like sharing more things can emerge, and as more things will emerge, more clarity will emerge. Is it okay? So far it is all right. Okay. Shilpa, I mean, if at all there is a question or if someone is sharing something on the Telegram group, you please interrupt me and share what they are sharing on the group.
Absolutely. In fact, there are a few comments, and Shweta, this sounds so, it sounds so hard, you know, when you said you are all over the place yourself and you need to understand and be empathetic to the other person. So I'm sure there's more coming up so that we can actually be able to do this ourselves in some way
Yeah.
or the other, you know. So Nikita says, yes, we need to empathize and not sympathize. And when you asked Rupali earlier about empathy, she said at that time to sympathize with the person.
Mm-hmm.
But you have
Okay.
already covered that.
Yes. 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 So thank you, Rupali, and thank you, Nikita, for sharing. So yeah, unconditional positive regards to really have that respect to that for that person, to really understand that there is capacity and there is a sense of equality. Right now, they may be uh, in a situation of distress. They may be feeling distress because of something. That doesn't mean that they don't have resource. There is always a sense of equality. So we always operate from the sense of equality. And same with empathy. There is respect, there is understanding. Empathy, in a very, very simple terms, empathy is love. I love you. The difference is that this love is not clingy. This love is not sticky. I don't love you because you fulfill some needs. I love you because you are that person. And I love you and I care for you, but there is no stickiness around that. There is no clinginess around that. It's very neutral and yet very powerful. Because if there is no love, why would someone even listen to someone? If there is no care, if there is no concern, why would someone do that for the other person? It's only because you really, if it's only because they matter to you in whatever way. Yeah. And coming to the third point, genuineness. It sounds very simple, but it is equally hard to practice. Genuineness means to genuinely, when I say unconditional positive regard, when I say empathy, people can also fake it. People can also use these techniques, but it is the genuineness that would bring about the difference in texture, that would make it feel authentic or inauthentic. So when I say genuineness, we genuinely have to believe that this unconditional positive regard and empathy are the basic qualities of listening. Genuineness also in terms of concern, genuineness also in terms of curiosity. So when you say that I've had a very rough day, Shweta, I do not interrupt or interject and say, oh, Shilpa, tell me about it. I've had an equally rough day. Right? When you say that I've had a rough day, Shweta, the genuineness in this relationship, the genuineness in this listening will really make me wonder, like, okay, let me see what how Shilpa has had a rough day. Let me just ask her. So instead of me coming in, instead of me coming in with any kind of statement, any kind of interjection, I make space for you. Oh, so you have had a rough day. So tell me about that. So there is a genuine curiosity, there is a genuine concern for that person, and you really want to know what that person might be really, really going through. And it is also interesting that when there are two people, so in connecting, we use certain terms which may sound very strange to all of you here. So one is felt sense. That's a very typical phrase, that's a very typical word that we use at connecting. And it actually means intuitiveness. So we are intuitively designed to pick up on each other's feelings, like how you can pick up, even if the child doesn't speak, probably a few months old, and you can pick up if the child is in pain, if the child is hungry, if the child is cranky, if the child is sleepy. And same wah, will tell you different things. We are wired for that. So this genuineness, and when I say that we are wired for that, so even in a conversation where I feel I am listening to you, Shilpa, you are also listening to me. It is never one way. So like I think yesterday also we spoke about that if I get shocked, you would not want to share more, right? You would feel, oh, probably it's just too much for Shweta to take. Let me just stop here. So though I was the listener there in that conversation, you were listening to my body too. You were listening to my reactions too. And this genuineness becomes extremely important in that case, because whether you are genuinely concerned, whether you are genuinely respectful of that person, whether you are genuinely non-judgmental, all of this will show up in a conversation. So from that space, this genuineness is very, very important. Yeah. So these are the three basic qualities of good listening. And as I said, really the blanket: unconditional positive regard, empathy, and genuineness. Are we okay like so far?
Very okay, Shweta.
Okay. Okay. Uh, so there is again like one word which I think whenever it comes to listening, it has kind of become a synonym: non-judgmental. What do we understand by that? What kind of conversations you feel, sound judgmental?
Shweta, where, let's say you say something to me and I bring in my beliefs and my assumptions. I think that is where just judgment just jumps in even before you probably complete your sentence.
Yeah.
And Rupali says it's beautifully explained, Shweta, and I so agree with her. So yeah, about judgment, Shweta, I think it's that, it's just bringing in your beliefs and assumptions.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about beliefs and assumptions. Now, it's a very, very interesting question, Shilpa. What do we really judge? Do we judge the person? Do we judge the behavior? Do we judge a statement? What do we really judge? So, when we say we are non judgmental, have we ever thought of what are we really judging here?
Would it be, Shweta, that it differs from person to person and situation to situation?
Could
Like,
be,
for
of course.
example, I can think of somebody just crying for no reason, and I can just immediately jump and judge and say that why are they crying? You
Yeah,
know, it's
yeah,
it's not even a big deal. So at that
yeah,
moment, I will probably judge the person. And
yeah,
then in another, if the same person is behaving in a situation in another way, then I will probably
yeah.
judge the situation.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Shilpa. You're absolutely right. So there are like, we also have our moments sometimes. So uh, just to give you an example, I have a friend who I know is is like, she'll just say things for the sake heck of it. She just has to say something, no matter what, right? And there is a judgment in me already. So the moment she opens her mouth, I'm like, she is just going to say something. Even if she brings a lot of value to the table, I don't pay attention to her. That's a judgment. So I have already judged her. And because there is a judgment, I am not really paying attention to other aspects of her. And I am not paying attention to this moment to moment conversation. Maybe I have had 10 conversations with you. In 9 conversations, you said things just for the sake of saying. But for me, those 9 conversations have actually kind of, defined my relationship with you. So the 10th time you open your mouth, I'm already done with you. Right? So if you have someone who's like, who cries or who whines or who complains, we have already made our judgment. And without really getting into right and wrong, it happens. We are conditioned that way. And we do not pay attention to positive judgments because positive judgments are rewards. And the society is conditioned like that. Even as kid, we were rewarded only when we answered correct, only when we behaved well. So if things didn't work out, we were always reprimanded. right? So we are conditioned that way, that you only have to pay attention to good things, and you are worthy only if you are doing good things. The sense of self-worth is already dented. And then to have all these conditions, like we have tagged. So without meeting anyone, I know in my head that the person who always cries is absolutely useless. The person who always complains is absolutely useless. So I have already created a box, and I have, like, I don't know how many boxes we have. And every time we meet someone, we pick that person and we put them in some box. So when I say non-judgment, it is hard because we all have our values and beliefs. But to be mindful for that moment at least, that it's not about you. Let me see. To come in with that kind of curiosity. And to also know that, uh, I don't know how this would sound, Shilpa, and to all of you, there is largely we judge the behavior. We judge people because they behave a certain way. So I always, like I said, that you're crying, and my mom told me that, crying is not good. It's just a waste of time. You should just know what to do about the situation and get on with it. Crying is for stupid people. Now I'm raised that way. Now it really doesn't matter who the person is. I have this condition that crying is useless. Now anyone who cries fits in this box. I am judging this behavior constantly. And because we are constantly judging behavior, we have no time, no capacity, no bandwidth to go underneath, to really look at, and to really come up with this question, and not like a complaint, not like a complaint in terms of why does she always cry, to really wonder, why does she always cry? What is really going on with her? That could be an opening. That curiosity, that concern could be an opening. So every time we judge a behavior, we have to understand that that behavior is a manifestation of some feelings. If I am crying, that there is something, some unpleasant feelings that I am not feeling okay about. I am crying because I know no one pays attention to me. No one talks to me. Everyone takes me for granted. That could be one thing. Where is that coming from? So, uh, to take it like, a step further, probably it's a little too early, but I would still like to introduce it here. Each one of us here present, each one of us, wherever we are, whoever we are, we have needs. Probably there is no person without any need. We all have needs. When those needs are met, we are euphoric, so happy, and that's such a pleasant feeling. When those needs are not met, they give rise to these unpleasant feelings. And if we do not have a space, if we do not know what to do about these unpleasant feelings, the behavior will keep manifesting. So just to give you a very small example, if there is a child, let's say 3-year-old child, and misbehaving with someone, people blame the parents. That's a general, conversation. Mummy ne dekha nahi, or dad ne, didn't pay attention to. But slowly, since that need, some need in that child is not being met. And for whatever reason, even as parents, we have some capacity. We are not like, we are not limitless as parents. As a mother, I have become a mother. That doesn't mean that my resources are limitless. We all have limited resources. So for whatever reason, I'm not saying that parents are wrong, but the child is being judged. initially the parents get judged because the child misbehaves. The certain needs continue to not meet, and the behavior continue to grow. Now the child is 19-year-old, now the child is 20-year-old, and then we start labeling the person. Now the parents have gone. Now we don't go back to the parents. Now the child is an adult, the child is responsible for his or her actions. Now we blame the child. At least in our work, Shilpa, we have come to see this, that everything starts from there. How we were supported when we needed support. And it just goes on, it just builds like that. And then that becomes our pattern, that becomes our coping mechanism, because I don't know how else to cope with that. I was made to believe that I was not worthy because my brother was doing so well in whatever, academics, non-extracurricular. Now, I know how to feel worthy only when I win. Just imagine, 18, 19 years of that same conditioning. I don't know how to lose. I am such a sore loser. I still remember, Shilpa, we had one call, and I can never forget this call. I can never forget this call. I was speaking with a volunteer who had such a difficult time supporting this caller. The caller called and was extremely distressed, because he was in the 12th standard. The caller scored 93, 94%, and super stressed. And here the volunteer, because when the volunteer spoke with me, the volunteer was like, Shweta, I didn't know what to do. I have been an average student all my life. I have never scored more than 70% ever. And I have always been like, 70% is like too good. And here I have a caller who scored 93% and still feeling distressed only because the expectation is to score 98%. Again, coming back to this, it is not necessary that every time the parents put that pressure. But the child is drawing, at least in this case, the child was drawing his sense of worthiness from those marks. So anything below 98% was not acceptable. Anything below 98% looked like a failure, seemed like a failure, and he was so distressed for that. So just see how this all pans out. Yeah, so yeah, I feel at least, today, if the takeaway could be to make that space for someone, not come in with any judgment, any opinion, any remark, any advice, any solution, no matter what. Hold yourself back. Even if you're able to hold yourself back for, say, 20 seconds, it's enough. That would also give you some space. And in those 20 seconds, just see for yourself if you're able to see, if you're able to really focus on the other person and wonder, okay, let me just keep quiet for a while and see what this person is trying to convey. Just that, nothing else. You don't have to get into any, there is no technique, there are no skills. So here is like, this is how I would want all of you probably, to try this out. Just take a step back. Just hold yourself back for some time and make space for the other person. And you will also realize that in the process, you are also making space for yourself. Is it too much, Shilpa?
Shweta, I'm actually going to try this. It's not at all too much. It makes complete sense. All I was thinking was this is so hard, this is so hard, but we have to begin somewhere, and it is only by these 20 seconds. If I get that for
Yeah.
20 seconds, I think I will get to 20 minutes and then probably the next
Yes.
20 years. So
Yes.
definitely we have to start. And Shweta, this is really important, not just with people who make us feel uncomfortable. You know, I think the
Yeah.
we try to help others to probably make ourselves feel comfortable, I think, sometimes. So this is really important to just clear all those expectations, assumptions, and just be, Shata, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you. So yeah, I I don't want to, and that it's not even needed. I think yesterday we also spoke about how we don't have too many psychologists working with us as volunteers because it's not required. You just have to be human, and we all are human. There is always this capacity. Listening is there most of the time. Some conversations which feel more meaningful, where you feel more connected. You are doing this, but you are doing this without that awareness. So, yeah, I think after today, if at all you are able to do this a little more consciously, you put a little more effort in just holding yourself back for some time and see what emerges for yourself and for the other person. And the same conversation you can have with yourself too. So, everything like, I have had such a terrible day, my partner, my children, my house, my work, and I'm going absolutely crazy. And I'm constantly having this conversation with me. This one is stupid. That one didn't do the work well. That one, didn't respond on time. All of that. Take a breath. Take a couple of moments for yourself and see what is going on. And it is all right to tell yourself also out loud, I am really feeling all over the place today. And I'm so annoyed that none of my work or nothing is working out for me today. You deserve it. We all deserve it. We all deserve to hear it from someone, and that someone could be you yourself. So yes, this listening that we spoke about today, this unconditional positive regard, the empathy, the genuineness, it may feel hardest, but start with yourself, because we are most critical of ourselves. We are very, very hard on ourselves. If others don't judge, we judge ourselves. And we are constantly judging ourselves. I didn't do this well. If I do well, then I'm always doubtful. I take criticisms to my heart, but if someone appreciates me, I just dismiss it. Oh, come on. So just imagine, we don't need others to judge. We are constantly judging ourselves. So start with yourself. Give yourself those seconds. Take a pause. And then do this with others. You don't have to get into counseling. You don't have to get into advice. You don't have to get into rescue. Not all the time. And even if you feel like, even if that advice is needed, let that advice come from a clearer space. And to have that clearer space, you need that pause. So I would be very, very happy if we can start from there, if we can just start with, I mean, this like a mantra, hold back, step back.